Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pulla Ravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetam Rudatuhe Namaha Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapada Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vastita Datkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidhusura suraganaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Sarvadharman parityajya Mamekam sharanam vraja Aham tva sarva papebhyah Mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. So we are coming to one of the very, very relevant chapters of Bhagavad Gita. We saw in chapter 5 how the last 3 shlokas essentially gave us the gist of this particular chapter, which is called, as I see it out here, Atma Sanyama Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. So Lord Krishna really wanted to elaborate on this chapter, but he gave us a teaser in those particular shlokas. And this is what we are getting into here. So in our reflection today, what I want to ask each one of you is, because the first 3 shlokas, or even, maybe the 3 shlokas, actually talked about what does it mean to be a sannyasi. So I want to ask you, what does the word sannyasi mean to you? And why is it relevant to our beginning of the chapter? Because we always think about sannyas ashram as the 4th ashram and something which I have to, after I've done with my life, after I'm totally, I don't have any more desires, that's where I want to be, the sannyas ashram. But here Lord Krishna is bringing the word sannyas in the very beginning itself. Why? Any questions or any thoughts? Because that's very relevant to the first 3 shlokas. Any thoughts here?
A person who performs his bounden duty, such a person is a true yogi or a sannyasi. That's what he refers to, I think.
Correct. He has said that, as which is Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnihi na cha akriyaha. So that is what he's saying. But here he is literally bringing this aspect of a sannyasi way up front. And then he comes, of course, he says the same person is a sannyasi and the person is a yoga. So in a sense, the reason why he brings the word sannyasi is, again, because in order for me to meditate, now this is the issue that we all have, is that we want to have a successful meditation session. Now, again, I'm bringing it up to where we are, the relevance of this chapter to where we are. Of course, if I take it in its true essence, meditation would be something else. But even here, the word sannyas is very important because I have to bring my mind completely under my control. Now, how is that related to sannyas? Because sannyas, essentially the word sannyas means renunciation, right? Sannyas means renunciation. Now, when we talk about renunciation, at our level where we are involved with the world and everything, renunciation has to be something where I am renouncing my fruits, my attachment to the fruits of action, like we said. So that part of it I need to renounce. But the other aspect of renunciation, we also said, was I have to give up this role that I'm playing. So the role of, a mother, the role of a father, the role of manager, the role of and worker, all this. So I have to give up this role of that particular role when I get into my meditation session. Because only when I give up my role, will I be able to give up all the thoughts related to that role, right? All my thoughts, if you think about, suppose I'm sitting for meditation today, what the first few things that comes into our mind is, I really don't have the time so much. So, hey, mind, just allow me to focus on my meditation for only 5 minutes. Okay, this is what we tell our mind. Okay, 5 minutes. After that, I have a lot of other things to do. Now, what are all those things to do? They are, if you look at the cause, they will always be related to the role I play. So I have to renounce my roles when I get into the meditation session. So that is the kind of reflection that I would like you to think about. And just this other quote, which I put last time, ultimately, the restlessness of my mind is the reason why I'm unable to meditate. And the restlessness of the mind is also what actually in our workplace leads to this unsteadiness of character, which he says, which Swami Chimananda has quoted here. It's reflected in how I act in this world. So you see, they're all connected. The role I play and how I play the role in the world is how ultimately comes to bite me in my meditation session. There is a lot of restlessness and there's a lot of things that I need to work on, which shows up in my meditation. Sometimes my whole meditation session is a problem-solving session. I'm not really sitting to meditate. So I just wanted to give you a few thoughts on this. Any questions or any thoughts, any comments that you would like to share? Because the first 10 shlokas of this chapter, you will see, are really related to these factors. The restlessness of the mind, which is reflected in how I act. And
so the restlessness is there during meditation. That means we don't achieve anything in meditation, right?
The restlessness is always there, but it more so when I'm sitting in meditation.
Right. So how do we achieve the fruits of meditation?
Yes, that is where our our philosophy, our Hindu philosophy and everything says that you have to hasten slowly, which means in order to get the fruits of the meditation, I have to first understand who I am. And in order to understand who I am, I have to go backwards from everything that I do today in the world. And what I do in this world today are, in a sense, all the roles I'm playing. In every role that I play, I get so absorbed and involved in that role, which in our Hindu philosophy, we have this term called Anyonya Adhyasa, Anyonya Adhyasa means superimposition. Anyonya means something which I take myself so much to be that person. And this is the big difficulty for us. And I'm going to just go a little more deeper here because you asked this question, Geeta, which is, Anyonya Adhyasa is a superimposition, as I said. This example that is always given of the snake and the rope, okay? Now, why am I going there? Because a snake and a rope looks very similar, right? I mean, you can literally you can make a rope similar to a snake, correct? You can fashion a rope similar to a snake, and you can fool somebody with this example of a snake and a rope, right? There are times if my mind is not alert on a very twilight zone or something, especially where I'm right now in Kerala, which is so mountainous, I can easily mistake something which is going this one to be a rope, when in reality it is a snake, okay? So I'm using the other way. It's that it can happen here. So this is the problem for us in the roles that we are playing in the world. We identify ourselves so much with the role that I think I'm that role. So all the things that goes on, the accolades that I receive as a manager, the accolades I receive as a worker, the praise that I receive as a mother, or the praise that I receive as for someone doing very well, or the backlash or the backbiting, or all those things happen, they're all connected to the roles. And we don't recognize that. And when I'm sitting for meditation, those things come and haunt me and prevents me from being who I am. So that's,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Madhuri.
Yeah. Sunitha, is this connected to the modes of mind too, like Rajasic and Sattvic? Because unless, like, in the agitative mode, we cannot concentrate unless we calm down. So even when we are in Sattvic, we can play in that roles aggressively, or just we will be like a little bit passive.
You're right.
In Sattvic.
Correct. So the moods of the mind do play a big part in my having a good meditation session. If I'm very tamasic not necessarily means I'm sleepy or dull from that point, but tamasic from the point of view of my thoughts, the kind of thoughts that I have on how only me and me alone is important in this world. That's kind of a tamasic thought. Rajasic thought is when I have multiple thoughts going all over, and again, sort of looking out for me and maybe my family and my community, that kind of thing, or only my community is important. I mean, elections are happening now in US. So many of kind of thoughts come about. So that the Rajasic, the Sattvic thought is, yes, I might be even more broader outlook in my mind, which can help me even more. So one thing also I wanted to clarify, when we talk about meditation here, we are talking about the highest state of meditation. Today, meditation being a common word. And at some point in one of my sessions, before we enter into the actual state, I really want to explain also what meditation is and what meditation is not, and how the word meditation is used today to calm ourselves down. All those are necessary for us. This doesn't mean that I should not get up early in the morning and do at least 5 or 10 minutes of meditation so that my day will go smooth. All that is needed for my roles. For my role to play well also, I need a meditation. But to get away from my role also, I need meditation. But there are two different kinds of meditation. That is very important to recognize. So yes, mind, moods are very important to recognize.
So
Can
as
I
long
say something?
as yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Gita is saying something, I think.
Yeah, Meenakshi, go ahead.
Okay, so Sunitha ji, today I was listening to Kumari Shivashari Skandaprasad on Audeyakkal's some composition and all that. So, I mean, just a little bit, I'll tell you. What she says is, you think that Parabrahman is in you, as in your Atma. So when you think like that, that takes, I mean, years and years, of course. But when you think that you have Parabrahman on you, then, our thoughts won't ponder about, like, we won't be thinking, oh, somebody said something to me. How am I going to face them tomorrow? What is it going to happen? So we can leave about everything, all that, and always keep thinking that Parabrahman is on you, Parabrahman is on you, Parabrahman. And then, slowly we can try to control our mind. And then start with this was the best example she gave, so I just wanted to bring it to you. Her name is Kumari Shivashari Skandaprasad on Aude.
She's a beautiful singer. Yeah, she's a
Oh
very,
my
very
God, it was so good.
Yes.
A lot of compositions on Aude Akals.
I know. In fact, if you look at it, Meena, all our Mahatmas, Saint Tyagaraja, all the compositions ultimately only leads to that Parabrahma Tattva. Tattva means the essence.
Yes.
And Parabrahma is the essence of each one of us. Who are we? We are that ultimate Parabrahman.
Yes.
And we are thinking ourselves today to be this Meena and Sunitha and Madhuri and Geeta and all of them. This is how we are recognizing ourselves. So what she must have sung in the compositions is, and there is so many, Bhadrachala Ramdas, if I have to quote in some of them, you can see in each and every one of the compositions, they talk about this Parabrahma Tattva. That is who our ultimate self is. And what we are not is this self with which I'm transacting in this world.
That's what she was trying to say. Understand the Parabrahman Tattvam on you, and then, maybe slowly we can try to get rid of all the unwanted thoughts from our mind. But I know it'll take some time, maybe next Yugam or something.
No, not at all. So, Meenakshi, this is where our Vedanta is clearly stating, when I gave this example of the rope and the snake, right? When I'm looking at a rope and I think it is a snake, correct? It's an actual rope. I look at an actual rope, but in the evening time, my mind tricks me in looking at it and saying that it's a snake. But actually, it's a rope, right? So too with all of us, we are none other than Parabrahma Tattva. But we have deludedly, mistakenly thinking ourselves to be the roles with which we are playing. That is not to say, that doesn't mean that ultimately that I'm not there, that I'm an illusion from a point of view of a magician. That is not what we are saying. The effort that is needed for us is that in and through everything that I am doing, I recognize that I am only this role. Just like I'm wearing this sari today, I wear some other sari tomorrow. These things I can recognize, this is anatma, this is inert. Can I take that same thought even further to look at this body as inert? The mind and intellect with which I'm transacting is inert. So in order to get to that level of Parabrahma Tattva, which is not this mind, not this intellect, not this body, which is why we are needing the sixth chapters so badly. So as much as, and again in our Vedanta, we have these three main cornerstones, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. This Shravanam is the most important of the sadhanas. Okay, meditation is not the most important one. It is this listening, Shravanam, because this is actually called the Angi sadhana. Angi meaning the main sadhana. If I do my listening very well, like how you were saying, Kumari Skanda Prasad, when she is singing, if my mind is completely transported only to the Parabrahma Tattva and I can stay there, that's it. I don't need any other effort. You see, but the problem for us is our mind, which is constantly telling me, is this really true? Is this, oh no, and then as soon as even this lecture is over, what will you do? Immediately, oh, I need to take care of this, something else. And sometimes even the mind may say, okay, she's still in the introduction. She hasn't even moved forward by 1 or 2 shlokas. So all these things, the mind will constantly keep interfering with our thought process. And that's why Shravanam is, I showed you this example of a flame, which has to be totally unwavering, not moving even a little bit. To that extent, if my mind has been resolved, then the Parabrahma Tattva versus my thing is totally resolved or totally dissolved. So Shravanam needs to take me to that place. And if Shravanam doesn't take me to that place, then I have one more step, which is Mananam. In Mananam, I have the doubts which keeps coming up, where constantly I need to sit down. And that is a step of contemplation. So I'm sitting down. Some people may say meditation. Some people may say contemplation. So in that state of contemplation, all this knowledge, what I have gathered, I need to resolve within my own mind. And the shloka beautiful, which is coming up, is Uddharedatmanatmanam, shloka number 6, which is tells you that ultimately, when I sit for meditation, for contemplation, I myself have to resolve it by myself. So that is the Mananam. Yeah.
So do you think this may be the path to get into meditation by understanding the Parabrahma Tattvam and all that? Those
100%, 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. We need both of them. We need us to be reminded of Parabrahma Tattvam all the time through this beautiful listening to the glories of the various gods, through that we are drawn towards the Saguna aspect of that that super, I don't want to use the word super conscious, that is all psychological terms, but it is that consciousness principle. So that consciousness principle, that Parabrahma Tattvam, is not easily available to us because our minds have not been purified. The Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagrata have not been obtained. And therefore, we rely on music, for example, all that which tunes my mind to that Saguna meaning that God with the form. And once I get my mind completely attached to that form, then at that point in time, we can go even further. So these are the aspects that beautifully our philosophy teaches us. Ultimately, where do we really want to go?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for bringing this. It's so beautiful early in the morning for me here, at least, to be able to dwell on this beautiful topics, because ultimately what we are studying in Bhagavad Gita, and again, this chapter 6 will so beautifully take us into that flight, that flight of meditative flight we'll be going. So, yeah. So this chapter 6, like I said, is will take you to that Parabrahma Tattvam. Self-abidance means that Parabrahma Tattvam, that who I am. It will take you and it will lay out all the discipline steps. That is very important for us, right? All the music, all this literature can remind me that I'm that tattva, but we all know that we actually need some New Year resolutions kind of thing to take us there. So that is where each of these shlokas are taking us. So that is actually the need for the sixth chapter, which we said. And because again, it is the mind. Ultimately, it's the mind. Mind is the biggest culprit, but mind is also our friend, also our enemy. Everything is there. Sixth chapter is all about mind control, So in shloka 1, as I brought out this aspect of sannyasi and yogi, the idea which he's trying to say is that here we talked about karma yoga, we talked about sannyas yoga, dhyana yoga before, but I want to point out a yogi here is a meditator. So we are all, if we want to be a good meditator, we have to be a sannyasi first. That is what he's trying to say in this shloka, which is anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha, that person. Who is that? Who is that person? He starts first with saying karma yoga. Okay, so karyam karma meaning if I can do my own duties very well, whatever has been assigned to me, I just do it. Nike ad, just do it. I do it to the best possible way. Then what happens is, and what is that best way? He is giving that qualification, which is sannyasi. Sannyasi is a person who not only he has that aspect of renunciation. So when I have renounced something, then such a person only can be a true meditator. Sir sannyasi, he is also a meditator. And then he's qualifying it by the second line, which is na niragnihi na cha akriyaha. So a sannyasi is a person who has actually given up all rituals. The Agni refers to rituals. In those days, it's only by doing any kind of ritual can the karma kandan means somebody who is in grahasthashram can think about having his desires fulfilled. So here he's trying to say a sannyasi is not a person who's just given up his ritual, but he also has to be a person who is internally given up his desires. So why would you do any kind of ritual? Only when you have a desire for something. So don't be a sannyasi outwardly, he's saying, but you have to be inwardly also. And then nurture akriyaha, which is where he's referring to the yogi. A yogi, I said, is a meditator. A meditator is one who's sitting quietly, still, right? So in chapter 3, we had this thing, which is, he said, he's an imposter who is sitting quietly, but his mind is everywhere. I think I have a picture on that one too. I put that in today. So this he's basically saying is somebody who follows karma yoga, who has come up to a certain level, somebody who has given up his desires, and somebody who can sit quietly without even thinking anything. Without thinking, such a person is can be a good meditator. Then here, the second. So that is what we saw here. I think I'll skip this because I've already said this. And then in shloka number 2, yam sannyasam iti prahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava nahya sannyasta sankalpaha yogi bhavati kaschana. So here the key word is sankalpa. So so the shastras, prahuhu meaning shastras, those yogis, those rishis, they have said that yam sannyasam, that which is called renunciation, know that of Pandava to be yoga, that itself is nothing but that yoga. Nahi asanyasta sankalpa, not somebody who has given up the desires from a point of view. Sankalpa means the one that I want to. So, basically it starts from the vasana to the desire, right? So ultimately, I have to be able to give up the desires in my mind itself. I should be able to have a control over it. So giving up, again, as I've always said, giving up doesn't mean that I'm like at a zero state in my mind. One can never be at a zero state as long as I have a physical body. Meaning that a prarabdha keeps pushing us to do things. Even after my knowledge has happened, because of my prarabdha, like this Khalil Gibran's poem on children, where he says, an archer, he has his bow and the arrow, the minute he leaves the bow and the arrow has gone past, the arrow will go until it finds its mark. So that flight is decided for that arrow. So too for all of us, our flight has been decided. I am going forward with whatever I have to do. So does that mean that the shloka is not trying to say, okay, you have given up your desires, now just sit down quietly until your body just drops off anything? That is not what he's saying. He's just saying, in your mind, give up all sankalpas. Give up that, okay, I need this, I want that. And of course, living in the world that we are today, we thought the COVID will stop everything, no more new things coming up, but people are so smart, they have so much of sankalpas that even online, now we can still do a lot of shopping and, spoil ourselves. But in some ways, because of the fact I don't have to go out, this is my sadhana where I can stay at home and practice giving up my sankalpa. Sankalpa meaning any desire in my mind. Because ultimately here he's saying, and this is especially valid for a COVID time, because it's not about dhamma, about objects coming into my mind, but my mind going outward. So that is why he's saying, don't allow that mind to have more newer, fanciful imaginations. That is the sankalpa part of it.
Isn't that state equivalent to yogi state?
Correct. That is the yogi state.
Then
so yogi,
sannyasi state is
sannyasi state is actually a state where it's a renunciation stage, where you have vairagyam. You develop a lot of vairagya, where you giving up. So it is, you have to be a sannyasi to be a yogi. Ultimately, sannyasi and yogi are the same. So basically, sannyas means, as I said, renunciation, right? Giving up. So how do you give up? Only when you practice more of vairagya. When you practice vairagya, you're a sannyasi. And you have to be a sannyasi in order to be sitting for meditation. So you see how tall or how much is an expectation from being a meditator. So who's a meditator? A meditator has to be a sannyasi. So that is the ultimate conclusion. So a yogi basically is a meditator who has no sankalpa or thoughts. A yogi is definitely not a meditator who's sitting still and has all thoughts. So I've shown this picture before, but I thought this is just perfect for this particular shloka. You do a Google search, you come up with these beautiful pictures and you put what you want. But I thought it is such a, ultimately, of course, sitting for meditation, as I said, contemplation or concentration does help you to focus more on your job, which is nice. But at the same time, this is not what he's trying to show. A yogi is ultimately a person who's able to give up that thoughts, because, as Meena pointed out about the Parabrahma Tattva, that can happen only when my thoughts, which are the impediment, they are the veil, because of which I'm not able to recognize a Parabrahma Tattva in my mind. It's all these kind of thoughts, fanciful thoughts, which are arising out of sankalpa. And this is so perfect for that, because, like I said, sankalpa means something which I would love to do in the future. A bucket list. We call this a bucket list, right? Now, when we get into this philosophy here, you don't even need a bucket list. That is, everything is totally dissolved. So now, yeah, go ahead.
So, we shouldn't have any sankalpa, right? Is that?
Yeah. So, I mean,
No
we have
sankalpa.
sankalpa for a prarabdha to happen, but no new sankalpas. Do not create new sankalpas.
New desire. Sankalpa over here is desire, right?
New. Sankalpa means new, any new desires. That's what he's trying to say. It is not vasana, but don't start.
New desires. Yes.
Yeah.
My question, going back, it's like Puri Ramayan solid Ram kaun hai. But if we don't even have those desires, what would make us sit over here if we did not have the desire?
A very good question. So basically, the idea is, if you didn't have this desire to sit to listen to Bhagavad Gita, the mind is very clever. It will create some other sankalpa for us to see something on Netflix or whatever. Somebody may have said, Ponniyin Selvan is, that's just a new movie which has been released in September. I just want to, this or the Kantara, those two movies. I'm just picking up some movies which are more Indian, IKS based, Indian knowledge system based. All these movies have just come, don't you want to see that? Nothing wrong with that, because there's still some beautiful, but there's so many, the mind will always create new sankalpas for us. It's very, very capable of doing it. So to convert, instead focusing my mind into a more of a sattvic desire, it's not bad at all. So of course, if I don't, we can never be in a state of not creating any sankalpas at all, because we have so beautifully trained our minds, to be always thinking about more. From the time I've been a child, I've been always told that, don't sit quietly, do something, right? That's how we tell ourselves. And guess what? When I'm 60, that same thing now has become such a habit that I'm constantly running, I am not able to sit. This is all our own making. Yeah.
So can we say this sankalpa of just trying to sit and listen to satsang or Bhagavad Gita or whatever it is, that is one of the path to get into meditation or become a sannyasi? Can we say that?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, this listening and learning to the knowledge part of it is probably the only path because of which I will be drawn to other paths as well. Even the bhakti yoga or all that also. First, listening is very important.
Yes.
Listening to the glories of the Lord, listening. In fact, this will help me to focus more on even the beautiful music I hear. It'll help me to perform my karma yoga very well. So for all this, this is very important. So
basically, Hari Om Sunitha ji. So basically, the question is the desire for sitting here in the class, right? So what I understand is ultimate goal is without sankalpa, desirelessness. Correct. But that for us, common people like us, is not going to happen immediately. So we have to walk the path. So for that, we have to have desires. So we have to have desires to listen to Bhagavad Gita. We have to have desires to do worship. We have to have desires to do many good things, which is basically comes under Vidya Maya. So, so we have to go through the path. All these desires will be there in the beginning, but ultimately goal is to reach that level where we will not have any desire. Then we'll be called as a yogi or sannyasi.
Correct. Correct.
Sunitha,
Yeah.
the same desire what Amalan is saying can be called as purushartha, right? In Vedantic thing.
Correct.
This is
Correct.
the effort we have to put. This will not be desire, right? We can
Yes.
in Vedantic thing they say it as a purushartha. It's
Correct.
an effort.
It is effort. Effort.
Yeah, thank you.
Because you're right. And that brings me to the shloka, which is next one, which is then the idea is how do I know that I am a yogi already? And what do I need to do? Right? So this next shloka, which says Aruruksho Munir Yogam Karma Karana Muchyate Yoga Rudhasya Tasyaiva Shama Karana Uchyate. Karma Shama Karana Muchyate. Correct. So he's trying to show that ultimately we do need to put some purushartha. We need to put some effort in order to be able to solve this problem we are having with the mind. So mind is the problem. What do I need to do? So I need to first have a control on the mind. That is the most important thing. And that needs a lot of effort. And as Amlan said, we have to follow the basic principles that is needed for the mind, which is one of the most important things, which is japa. Japa is a very nice method. Worship where I have where I can focus my mind into one thought of the ideal, which I see in the idol. Though that's another major step. So all these are the effort that I need to put. So in order to be able to control the mind, because ultimately the mind is the one which is troubling me, but it is only with the mind I'll be able to go forward. So that is why this Ararukshoho, one who is now convinced that I do have a problem. I have a problem in the sense I'm not able to see the Parabrahma Tattva in myself. So what do I need to do? So I need, for such a person who has recognized, only for such a person, because there are many people in the world who are perfectly content with what they're doing. So let's not disturb them, which is very important. Now I don't have to go and tell them, what, do you know that this Parabrahma Tattva is what you need to do? They're going to say, are you crazy? So this shloka is trying to say that one who has recognized that the mind is the problem, what does he have to do? He has to do something to control it. So Arurukshoho, so that is why he's referring to Munihi. The qualifications given. Munihi, only for that contemplative person who recognizes this problem, Yogam Karma Karanam Uchyate. Now, for such a person, he has to put the effort, put the Purushartha. But then somebody who has already recognized that aspect and who has full control of the mind, such a person is called as a Yoga Ruda. Yoga Ruda. So this Yoga Ruda, one who is established here, for that person, inaction is said to be the means. So one who has already recognized, now we will, of course, spend some time in the later shlokas on what he means by inaction. Inaction doesn't mean here that you are, you're just sitting quietly and you don't have to do anything because now you've understood everything. In a sense, what he's trying to say is, do not have any of your sankalpas bothering you. First of all, there won't be any sankalpas because you have understood the knowledge. But do not now start creating new things for yourself. Inaction is said to be the means. So somebody who's well controlled, you can just, don't, inaction. Shama means the quietness. Actually, here he means yogi, which is trying to be totally quiet. You don't have to really do anything. You can just focus on your meditation. So here, this is so beautiful. The shloka is beautiful in so many different ways. I know last time I gave this example of the horse, somebody a horse rider who wants to climb the horse and have a great ride, I'm going to put another picture here to show you about the things which we can, of course, take it in so many different examples, So in order for me to mentally be in tune and enjoy the ride effortlessly, I need to first have this mind, which is given as an example of the reins, completely in my control, So I do that. Once I do this, so to bring the mind under control, karma karana uchyate, through work, through dedicated work, through egoless work, desireless work, service and activity, I will be able to, this is the first step, which I can do that. When I do this, then what happens is my mind starts to quieten very easily. Shama karana muchyate. Thereafter, the mind is totally quietened. And this is really the path of contemplation. And when I sit on this contemplation, if I don't do this, then, if my reins are not in my control, when I sit for contemplation, the horse will run amok, and we know that the horse, just like the horse, a wild horse which has not been tamed runs, so to my mind is like that horse, it can do that. But if I really practice this meditation very well, then my horse can be made to do anything I want. It can gallop, it can trot. I'm a master right now, and I'm actually totally in control of the horse. I'm in total control of the mind. And this is when we say this is the yoga ruda state. So earlier, I'm trying to mount the horse and I'm trying to do everything I can to be a good rider so that I can enjoy the ride effortlessly. So this is the idea behind what he's trying to say. And when I said we can use this example in so many different ways, even at work, right? At work, this is, again, I want to use this example for career guidance, Career guidance is if I have learned a particular, let's say, we are a software programmer or something, and I'm learning a particular program very well in order to become an expert. So I learned the program really well. I know the ins and outs. Then my work is a breeze. I don't have to do anything because I have been so totally in control of what I have learned, and I'm able to apply myself. Now, when do I have stress? The stress happens because there are some portions of what I have learned and what I'm facing, both of them are not in sync, right? So you can see the shloka, the applicability of it so beautiful, Arurukshoho, that effort that I put in anything, whether it is riding a horse or learning how to bike. And I remember my days in IIT, and Usha, who's here in the thing, will also remember, which is when I was in IIT, we had to, in IIT Chennai, you have to go by bike, from the gate all the way inside the campus. And it's almost, I would say, a few miles, at least 3-4 miles, And I never knew how to bike until I got to do my PhD there. So then you borrow your friend's bike and you ask your friend to come with you and to help you to learn the bike. You have this big ground and, it's great learning bike on a ground, but then you have to come back to the road at some point, right? And bike on the road. So there is, the fear that comes into play. So, but then ultimately, when you are totally good at something, you just enjoy the ride. And that's the way it should be with anything and everything we do. So then the work itself is a meditation for us because I'm in total control of the situation. Nothing can affect us. And this, if anything bothers me or affects me, that means I'm not ready to do that job very well, right? So I love the shloka from that point of view on how to balance that amount of effort that I have to do and how that effort will lead me to do a great job. So, which now when we do this, I can say that I am in total control, right? So the next shloka basically is saying that, yada hinendriyartheshu na karma swanushajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudasta dochute. So a yoga ruda, then, he's eligible for meditation only, which of course he's reiterating what he has said before. One is yadahi indriyartheshu, when neither to sense objects nor to action man is attached, which is again the Aruruksho stage where you're trying to cross. Yadahi, where now when you, let's take a work example itself, when I am putting so much amount of focus on learning a particular program or learning a particular job skill, and at that point in time, nothing bothers me from whether somebody's saying something or somebody is walking around with some cake or whatever, but I'm just focused on what I need to do. And so such a person, becomes really eligible for, say, in a work situation, to really do a great job. So to here in the area of meditation, what he's saying is, when the mind is completely in my control, it is not going to any of the sense objects. I may have cashew nuts in front of me, but I'm not affected by it. Or na karma swanushajjate, is not driven by any sankalpas that he has to do something. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi. So such a person who has given up any kind of fanciful imagination, such a person is really, really eligible for meditation. So again, this is just a reiteration of the previous shlokas. So now we come to the point of, okay, you have told me that I have to be quiet. I have to give up all my fanciful imaginations. So how can I really get there? Can I really get the help of somebody? Can really God come and help me? Can all this be done by him? So he says, I'm there for you. I am up here, but ultimately you yourself have to do the whole thing. Nobody is there to help you with this. So that is what in shloka number 5, we will chant this. It's again the most beautiful shloka from the point of view of giving us so much amount of strength. And I have to say this, in this day and age, only yesterday at my work, I'm saying at my university here, we were talking about how, we did a survey for all the students, and we were trying to understand from a psychology perspective, how the students feel good about the various skills they have and everything. And one of the professors was saying about how, how the students these days are, you would expect that they would rate themselves, 4 or 5 in a scale of 1 to 5 on how good they are. But students are, in general, not just here I'm saying, but overall itself, we find that this generation tend to kind of rate themselves a little lower than everybody else, compared to really what they could rate themselves. The point being is, we are at a stage in our life, we are, in a generations now, where we are pushing ourselves so much, thinking that we are not good enough. Now who can help us? Again, I'm, directing this as an applicability as to why this shloka can be interpreted in so many different ways, and how ultimately the thought which the shloka is trying to say is that I myself am responsible to lift myself. So it is not, even God is coming and telling me that I'm here to help you, but I'm not going to just carry you just like that. Put some effort, buddy. That's what he's trying to say here. Uttaredatmanatmanam Natmanam avasadhayet. Natmanam avasadhayet. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. So uttarit, uttarit, lift yourself, uplift yourself. How? How do I do this? He says, Atmana, Atmana, by yourself. Atmanam, who are you trying to lift yourself? Myself. I myself have to lift myself. But in the Sanskrit, it says yourself, because again, Krishna is telling Arjuna, right? So that's why. But for us, what it is trying to say is, lift yourself by yourself. Having done that, na atmanam avasadayet. So this is the second part which I was coming to when I was talking about this generation and everything, which is, but do not degrade yourself. Do not push yourself down. Do not feel depressed. So that is what, today mental well-being and health and is so very important here. He's saying, na atmanam avasadayet. Do not yourself push yourself down. Ultimately saying that even in the cases of depression and everything, of course, we have the physical aspects of hormones and everything, which is definitely plays a huge part to it. But even for somebody who has a hormonal imbalance and everything, ultimately giving a nice environment and everything, such kind of a message is very uplifting. So Atma eva hi atmana bandhuhu. Ultimately, I myself am a friend of myself. So Atma eva hi atmana bandhuhu. So I myself am a friend of myself. For the mind alone is a friend of oneself. Here again, the interpretation of Atma is to be construed as the mind, which means I myself. Atma eva ripuhu atmana. And the same mind can also be an enemy of myself. So, uddharedatmanatmanam, atmanam avasadyet, atmaiva hi atmano bandhuhu, atmaiva ripuratmanaha. So only I and I myself can help my own self in order to reach that yoga ruda state. Aruruksho, meaning that putting the effort, but that effort is not that somebody else, I can go to somebody else who can help me. A coach, our parents, our gurus, all of them are there to help us. But ultimately, for me to reach that next state, I myself am responsible to control my own mind, which is Atma eva atmana bandhu. I have to make the mind itself is my friend. The mind itself alone is my enemy here. So very, very beautiful shloka where, he's trying to show about how that Atma word, he's explaining out 7 different ways, which is first Atmana, by the mind. Atmanam, which is referring to all of us. At our stage, we are a jiva, right? Individuals. Atmanam, who are we helping? We are helping that jiva alone. And how are we helping? With that same mind. Atma. Here, the mind is referred to as the higher mind. And we'll be talking about what this Atma means. Atma, the higher mind. And of whose? Is it of somebody else? Somebody else's higher mind, is that who's helping us? No, it is of the same person, of that particular jiva. And who are they helping? It is my own mind, which is the lower mind. So the same mind is helping, the higher aspect of the mind is helping the lower mind. It's almost like, when I'm climbing the ladder, I have the upper rung and the higher rung, but they're all connected to the same ladder. I'm climbing that ladder. Here I'm climbing the ladder of the mind, and I'm using my lower rung to reach I'm giving up the lower rung in order to reach the higher rung, but they're all connected to the same thing. So too, that's what this shloka is all about. So next week, we will talk more about what are the opposing forces? Why do we need our own, how can our own mind help the lower mind? So we will, if you can spend some time also thinking about what are the opposing forces, how can the mind help? We can have a short discussion. We'll start a reflection time with this aspect. So I was hoping to do this, but we'll do this next week. Sorry, I forgot to change the date. Next week, 23rd, we will meet again. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate. Purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you, everyone. So next week, we'll spend a little more time on this powerful shloka. Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
next
Thank you.
week. You're welcome. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om, Sunitha
Thank you,
ji.
Sunitha.
Goodbye.